reporting at the Sydney Liberty Conference, the Friedman Conference, and I'm talking to Daisy Cousins, who is a freelance writer for The Spectator Australia and for Quadrant magazine. Daisy is also a critic. She calls herself a feminist apostate. So I would like to get to know a little bit more about the Australian feminist scene, Daisy. Can you tell me who are the big names in the Australian feminist scene?
Well, there are a few. Probably when you think Australian feminist leader, the first name that comes to mind is a lady called Clementine Ford, she's an intelligent woman. She's a good writer. She's recently released a book, but she doesn't practice what she preaches. She's probably the embodiment of all the most destructive elements of third wave feminism, which is mainly peddling the victim mentality, lying about things like the gender pay gap, misrepresenting it, pushing the idea of male privilege, which is false, as we know, for so many reasons. And she is the lead, I guess, critic, shall we say, of women who are on the right. And the problem, the thing I always find odd about third wave feminism is that one of their main talking points, one of the things they push for, is more female voices in the mainstream, and they constantly lament the fact there aren't enough. That's not true. There are actually quite a few female voices, more than you'd think, but it's just a certain proportion of them are conservative. But that's not going to fly with sort of the third wave feminist left, certainly not with Clementine Ford. So they actively seek to destroy and denigrate those conservative female voices because they're not interested in debate, which is the great hypocrisy of third wave feminism. Yes, we want more female voices so long as they agree with us.
So would you say that Clementine Ford and some of her fellow travellers engage in bullying tactics?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, if you think of journalists like Rita Panahi, who's been on the receiving end of a bit of Clementine's vitriol, she said what was the word? The phrase she used, she said, no matter how hard she tries, she will never be a white man, which is a very famous comment. She's used some nasty profanities for Miranda Devine as well, which were well publicised, but I've actually been on the receiving end.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. It started on February 6th this year on Q&A, which was my first ever big panel TV appearance. And the ABC's, we know, is a bit of a left-wing bias, and that's fine, but, you know, we had a couple of conservatives. Clementine was not on with me, but when I finished the show, I got a phone call from a friend who said to me, Daisy, Clementine Ford's been tweeting about you. This surprised me because I've never met her. She probably had no idea who I was, probably never read anything that I'd written, never even heard my views on feminism because we didn't talk about it. But by virtue of the fact that I came on as a conservative, I was automatically the enemy, and she was tweeting things like Daisy Cousins, obviously Google stalking me at the time to find out material that she thought might embarrass me. Daisy Cousins only knows about private school and Irish dancing, which she would only have found by taking the time to Google my name and scroll through the results however far to find all this kind of material. You know, Daisy Cousins must have won a competition to be here, encouraging all her followers who are commenting on things like my hair, how I flip my hair, my clothes, my upbringing, things like that. And I thought, well, that's a little bit hypocritical, because if those comments were made by a man to Clementine, she would hail them down as the worst kind of misogynist and probably petition for them to get fired, which she's done a couple of times. And this, I thought, all right, well, at least I'm making the right enemies. That's as I put it, you know.
So what you're saying basically is that these feminist leaders don't have time for dissent and are intolerant of people who don't conform to their worldview. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even if they are women?
Even and especially if they're women. The worst thing you can be to a third wave feminist is a feminist apostate, like I am, because the idea is that you're somehow deficient or unduly influenced or capitulating to the misogynistic men in your life.
And it undermines the narrative that all women are oppressed.
Totally undermines the narrative that all women are oppressed. And I just find it so amazing that they will engage quite happily in the behaviour that they allegedly hate if it's going to humiliate conservative women into silence, because they are not interested in debate. And my theory about this is, you know, their rampant campaigning, their rampant whinging and whining and all of that kind of stuff is just a mask for the fact that deep down they know they're wrong.
Yeah, and potentially it makes money for them. They can sell books, they can make careers off the back of this political movement, and that it's just one way to have a career.
Yes, absolutely. these third wave feminists, Clementine especially, she relies on the concept of victimhood. She relies on women feeling bad about themselves in order to sell out lectures and sell books. And the reason for this is that feminists have kind of run out of things to complain about. They have, and this is why they started inventing words like manspreading and mansplaining and toxic masculinity and male privilege and all of the other stuff. They were running out of ideas, running out of ammunition, so let's make some up. Yep, very suspicious.
Yep, and so when people come along and critique the narrative, obviously they're shut down straight away because it undermines the whole project.
Absolutely, it undermines them and proves them wrong. You can disprove pretty much every third wave feminist narrative with a quick Google search.